here we go. We're getting started with our workshop. If you want to look up more information, I never like to invent things. I'm not an inventor. I'm more of a reporter. I think my Colby score is INTJ or DISC assessment, whatever it is, one of those tests, INTJ. I am a really, really good researcher and reporter. I don't invent things. I don't like to invent things because then I worry about whether I'm right or wrong. Instead, what I do is I look and I find what is actually working, what is solid, what is proven, and then I bring it to you guys after I test it. So I look and find what's proven. I try it myself. That way I can be confident when I bring it to you that I'm like, no, I can go find you the stats. I can show you my own stats. I know this works. Here's how I've done it. And so this is actually called the SVOD business model, which stands for subscription video on demand. There's, blog posts and things that you can look up. I haven't found any courses. A lot of the blog posts are kind of shallow level. So I've had to study podcast interviews. I've had to do phone calls with guys who are running these things. And so that's how I've done my research and then built my own as I was doing those calls because I had ad skills money back then. So I could use that ad skills money and that ad skills reputation to open bigger doors. And so we're going to be talking about all the things that I've learned. But so this is I'm not going to talk about SVOD as we go forward. I call it knowledge networks. And the reason why I call it knowledge networks is SVOD, subscription video on demand. Most of those platforms, that's all they are. It's just video. There isn't community. Sometimes there's a place to ask questions below. You've been on YouTube. That's not a great place to be hanging out is, the comments underneath a video. And so what we do is a knowledge network. And so we create a network along with the knowledge. That's what we did at Ad Skills. And people came for the Ad Skills tutorials and video classes, but they stayed for the network. They wanted access to the peers, the mentors, being able to ask questions at any time. And so that's why we call it knowledge networks. You dig? Okay. All right. So this business model, just to show you, SVOD has been on the rise for a long time now. This is not something that's brand new. It's been around for a while. What's up?
I was just making sure we're recording. Sorry.
Yes, we are recording. So it's been around for quite a while. The reason why it's been rising, one, you had the pandemic, all right? That just shot all of these things to the moon because everyone was home looking for things to watch and they didn't want to watch TV. And so you've got several factors coming in. You've got high-speed internet is now making this possible because people have fiber optic, people have blazing fast Wi-Fi. There's even 5G. And so you can watch a lot of these things at the coffee shop or wherever. And that's the other thing is so many businesses have Wi-Fi now. So the internet bandwidth is available to make this business model possible. And then you've got cord cutting. People are tired of cable TV. They want to pick and choose what they want to watch. Some people like Paramount Plus. Some people like Hulu Plus. Some people like Disney Plus. Some people don't like Disney at all, And so the cord cutter movement has enabled this to where people are saying, you know what? I don't want just regular TV. And a lot of entrepreneurs, not even just entrepreneurs, but there's a big movement of people wanting real sustenance. They don't want just junk food TV, reality TV. We all like a little bit of reality TV, right? But we also want something that's a little bit more educational, a little bit more valuable. And so people are, they may be on the Gaia crowd, where Gaia is like new age documentaries and Buddhism and yoga and stuff like that. So maybe you love that stuff, or maybe you love controversial stuff, or maybe you're a musician and so you sign up to musician.com and you have tons of information about how to play the trumpet and the piano and the drums and all that. So people want their own type of information and they're piecing together their own kind of cable TV, and then they want content on demand. The average consumer today is content hungry. They just want more and more content. They're binge watching tons of shows, classes, all that stuff. And so you can see here that there's real data that this thing is exploding. So let's talk about some of the key components. And then after the key components, I'll answer any questions and then we'll keep going. So the first thing, the primary job, your number one job is still the same. acquire customers. Your primary job is to acquire content, not just customers, but also content. You want to be getting content from your industry peers, from market celebrities, as well as original content. You want some kind of exclusive content that users can only get from you. And so in Ad Skills, we had this class. It was a story of mine, an old case study of mine, how I got 10,000 leads a day. Having that one class, right, one key class allowed us to acquire lots of viewers because they want to watch that. So the number one way that you're going to do your marketing, that you're going to acquire customers, is showing off the content that you have, right? So the reason people join Disney Plus, let's be honest, Mandalorian. Right? Who's with me? Mandalorian is the real reason any of us have Disney Plus installed on our apps, or maybe you're into something else. But it's really, and then with Netflix, oftentimes it's like Orange is the New Black, or maybe it's the Ozark show. Like there's usually like one show that you really want to see, and that's what convinces you. All right, sure, I'll plop down the $14.99 or the $19.99. So content acquisition is your primary job. And we're going to talk a lot about the different ways to acquire content. It's not as hard as you think, I promise you. There's content all over the world. People are starving for eyeballs on their content. It's not as hard as you think.
And not only that, but new generations are raised in content creation. Mm-hmm. Like they just get content creation. And so they're just going to be looking for how to use that to make money. And that's what they don't know yet.
Yeah, I forget the exact number, but there's something like 1 million minutes of video are being uploaded to YouTube every 1 minute. So like I promise you, there's content for days out there. All right, then your secondary job is subscription. The secondary job you have is to get subscribers. We will focus on this more in another session, but the more subscribers you have, the easier it gets to acquire content. And so you first need to, there's kind of a little bit of a chicken and egg problem, right? If you have no content, you'll get no subscribers, and you'll get no subscriber. If you have no subscribers, experts aren't going to want to give you content, right? Because the real reason experts and anybody is giving you content is they want the eyeballs on their content. So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg. That's why some original content is helpful in the beginning. You might make the first 2 or 3 classes, or you might have to purchase the first 2 or 3 classes. Masterclass.com. Now, they're on another level, and I will say that, and I'll show you the different ones that you should really pay attention to, but there are some things to learn from with Masterclass.com. They launched with $100,000. They spent $100,000 to acquire 3 celebrity courses, okay? So they grabbed the content, the primary job, and because they had that valuable content, it acquired subscribers quickly. And that's what they do, is they save up a lot of money, and then they just go buy really high value content, and that brings them the customers. And so that is one model. If you have money, or if you know how to get loans and VC money or anything, there is one model, but there is plenty of other models. We ain't got VC money, guys, and we didn't
want it either, though, to be honest. Like, it ties you to different challenges that
it gives you a boss
for our family.
And we don't want no bosses around here. We're happily unemployed.
The polite way.
Yeah, but we're happily unemployed, so we don't want no bosses. Okay, so that's really the nuts and bolts. If you understand that, you're going to do really well. Get the content, which will get you the subscribers. Okay, then you need streaming. You got to deliver the content, okay? And so you're going to need to build a platform to deliver your content. Ideally, it should look and function just like Netflix and Disney Plus, instead of the traditional membership sites or course layouts. That was one of the problems when we first started this. We were used to, right? I mean, we all used it. We grew up with you guys, right? We like Todd Brown and Russell Brunson and Frank Kern, and but the problem is our members area didn't look like what the customers were expecting it to look like. It didn't function the way that they were hoping it would function. And so it was hard for them to find the content. And so you're going to want different layouts, which is one of the reasons why ClickFunnels is not one of the tools that we recommend. It's a little harder to make the layouts, and I'm sure somebody's going to come out with a template for it. And when they do, I will recommend it. But I will show you the tools that I use that have templates already built, make it easy for you to do this type of business. So you need a platform that looks and delivers the content like a Netflix or Disney Plus. And one of the tools that I recommend will make apps for you. So you can have a Roku TV or a Fire TV or an app on mobile, and you actually own the app. It's not, they don't own it. And then, no, it's in your Apple account, your Android account. You own the app. You can walk away with it. All right. Retention. This is all the other jobs are very important, but you can't forget retention. And normally what I prefer is, as you start growing, put somebody in charge of retention, because you really need to stay on job number one, which is acquiring the content, and then job number two, which is acquiring the subscribers. And if you do those two jobs, everybody else can get paid as well as yourself, And so you want to put somebody on retention, but it's very important. Okay. Finally, you need to pay attention to your retention rate. We're going to talk about this in terms of churn. Churn is the metric that is widely used. So if you can look up blog posts about how to reduce churn problems, all that stuff. There's tons of information, classes and all that stuff about how to reduce churn. It is your arch nemesis. You're going to want to show your users a roadmap of the content that's coming soon to keep them engaged, right? Like the reason I don't quit my Disney Plus, even though all my friends tell me that I should, I want to watch the next season of Mandalorian. I want to watch that next thing that's coming up. They've got me hooked. They're stringing me along. And so that's what is going to be one of your number one. It's price, and then a clear roadmap of what's coming. That's going to keep your users staying on the platform. Okay, let's talk about Knowledge Network examples. So at the high level, we've got Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and I get it. They're super high VC money, millions, billions of dollars. It's a different ball game, and that's why I'm going to talk about it real briefly. But they're within our ecosystem. They're within our industry, and so there are things to learn from them. You can learn a lot from them and apply them to our smaller levels. So that's level number one. It's mostly just entertainment videos. It's TV, right? Then the next level is you start getting into the actual knowledge side of things. So I call that side as traditional, true SVOD, subscription video on demand, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus. You're just subscribing to video. Here we start getting into more knowledge, education. So we've got Skillshare, Masterclass, Wondrium. A lot of these also started in the same way that AdSkills. You used to buy classes one-on-one. Look at Udemy. Udemy, you'd buy a class one-on-one. Skillshare used to be that way. Then they started with a monthly option. Now they're actually going to annual price. And we'll talk about that in pricing, but that is kind of where the whole industry is moving to. So this is the next level, but still, these are very broad. Okay, so this is the world we exist in, where we're selling knowledge, education, courses, classes on a subscription video on demand model. But this is broad. Skillshare is all niches. Masterclass is all topics. Wondrium, they're mostly like history and controversy and aliens and math and things like that.
Which is still mass market.
It's still mass market. I geek out to it. I like it. But still very mass market stuff. What we're talking about and where we want to really push you guys, because it's much easier to acquire customers, much easier to get the content licenses that you'll need at this level, which is more the niche SVOD level, niche education. So we've got Musician is specifically focused on music. Abundance Plus, specifically focused on homesteading and gardening. AdSkills, specifically focused on advertising and landing pages, and will scale out to marketing. So start at that niche level, and then you can broaden, you can take it to the next level. So like homesteading, right? We'll take Abundance Plus. You start with just homesteading, and then you include gardening, and then you include agriculture, and then you start including like home organization, then you start including family lessons, parenting lessons, and that's how you can grow into a Skillshare or Masterclass level thing. But we want to start you small so you can acquire customers easy without a lot of competition. Okay.
Not just that, but like it lets you build trust that you can curate the best content for that market. Mm-hmm. Like you're not just getting any content. Like that's the hardest part about YouTube, is like you have to watch 18 YouTube videos to figure out the one that was the best, right? The one that actually answered your problem. And so you're that filter for the audience. Is like Justin knows it's really funny because he'll be like, all right, I watched 14 videos on this topic. These are the 2 we should watch together, right? Because I don't have the patience to sit through
She's not an
facts.
INTJ.
I'm not that. I want to know the answer. I want to get through it. I want to make the checklist. I want to go. And so like he filters it for me. And so I just trust that he picked out the best content for solving whatever problem we're trying to learn to solve. And so that's what you become at this level of knowledge network. And that trust you build will keep them with you as you branch out, because they'll be growing with you just the same way you grew. So like you solve their initial problems, like in Abundance Plus. Now I'm an Abundance Plus member because we just bought raw land and I have to figure out how do I live on this.
We love our Abundance Plus subscription.
But like seriously, he teaches like all those specific skills. And I was like, oh, that's convenient, super convenient, because then I don't have to go scan YouTube. I trust him. I trust his knowledge. I believe in his value system. And so like I just found one expert that I believed in their values, their integrity, their morals, and their knowledge, their expertise. Mm-hmm. And now he's just finding me the instructors to help me grow my land, right? And that's what you're doing at this level. So that's how you compete with I'm actually answering a question that came in as well. Yeah. That's how you compete with like the vastness of, well, YouTube's free. And, content is everywhere, but like, I want to find somebody I can trust to filter that content for me. And that's what you become.
Yeah. And so yes, so a lot of people think AdSkills' #1 competitor was Digital Marketer. Technically they're a competitor. I like those guys. I don't really think about them that way, but really, Google is my #1 competitor, right? Because people are Googling the answers to questions. And if I'm not doing my SEO right or my Google ads right, I'm not showing up there, And so then YouTube is my #1 competitor. And we'll show you how to beat that stuff, because I've had to go head to head with that. And I made millions of dollars, And so I didn't make billions, but I made millions, and I'll show you how you can go against that grain. So that's what we're doing. We're creating the masterclass of fishing, the Skillshare of survival, whatever. That's kind of the way that you'll approach these authors and experts and be able to get the content. Okay. So now we go into the different niches. What niches do these knowledge networks work in? This is a big question we have a lot of people asking is, what markets can I do this in?
Before you go on, you want to answer a couple of questions?
Sure, let's answer a couple of questions.
Okay, so this is a loaded question, and we sort of partially answered this one, but with content being super saturated, it's harder to place a premium value, so like Netflix sort of anchored the pricing market already. Mm-hmm. If you're combining that plus going on the subscription model, which is harder than ever to fight attrition, how can you get the economics to work to acquire leads, buyers at scale?
So I'm going to answer that in the pricing class, today. And, the short answer of that is there's upsells. It's not just $8.99 a month. It's not just $19.99 a month. There are upsells. And so just a real quick example, you join AdSkills. We had workshops like this, and these workshops would usually double our revenue for the month, and so we would spend, a lot of the infrastructure cost was taken care of by the subscription revenue, but then the profits, came from upsells, and so we had other classes that were upsells. I'm going to show you 7 different types of upsells that you can do in this business, but we have workshops, we have certification. Those are the 2 main upsells, and that's what allowed us to make far more money than just the subscription revenue that you see on there.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question, and this will also probably come in the pricing, but I want to make sure we cover it because I'm sure everyone's thinking it. So there are people teaching right now that you don't want to give them everything when they join. It's too much overwhelm, and that's why they quit, right? That's why they don't stay. So how do you have the low price point, put everything in one place, and overcome that so that so you don't have a high churn?
Nobody's quitting their Netflix because there's too many videos in there to watch. Nobody quits their Hulu Plus. It's a different business model. And you in fact, having more content actually attracts more subscribers. So in the traditional course world, coaching world, that can be a problem because they're coming to you for a specific problem. They want you to solve this thing. And so if I were a Google Ads coach and I start having stuff on landing pages and stuff on tracking and stuff on whatever, then yeah, they're starting to miss these different things. But that is a different business model. In ad skills, what people loved was it was like the buying trigger was like, oh, well, for $19.99 a month, I have access to all the different things. I don't have to go buy a Google Ads course and a YouTube Ads course and a Twitter Ads course and a TikTok Ads course. Like for one price, I get access to all of it. Same thing
whenever I need it.
with Abundance Plus. We don't have to have one for learning how to raise ducks and one for learning how to raise goats and one for learning how to raise chickens. We have one membership that solves all the problems for us. And so it's just a different business model, and you're going to attract a different customer who wants that.
Yes. Also, there are systems in the onboarding process that help you overcome that. So like even when Ad Skills was selling individual courses, we had an onboarding process where you asked them like, what is your goal? And then we would reply with, hey, here's some videos. And I know right now that sounds like very tedious, but like that's an automated process. I'm sure you've signed in, I'll say I've signed up for Skillshare previously. And like when you sign up, they say, oh, well, what are you interested in learning about? And they have like a whole list of like business, art, painting, doodling, like all these different things. And as you tick those, then they know how to curate the newsletter that you get. And so when you're onboarding your customers, you get to do the same thing. You get to say, what are your goals? And then you can ask them, well, are your goals to, scale your business? Are you looking to learn business systems or improve your ad buying skills, right? And so now we were able to like filter the onboarding response of like, oh, well, if you're looking for business systems, you should check out Agency Sales Masters. You should check out these calls with Jeremy Blossom. You should check out. And so I can have a custom newsletter feed based on what they tick in that onboarding email automation. And so that's another way to overcome that. There's too much in here. How do I find what solves my problem?
Yeah, so you create tracks, just like in big conferences where there's more classes than you can possibly go to at the conference. They create tracks. And so you may only go to the agency classes, or you may only go to the e-com classes, or you may only go to the affiliate classes. And so you create tracks for your customers to go through. Right. And when you set that up once, and then your email autoresponders, that does all the work and automates that for you. Are any other questions, or should we keep going?
No, we should keep going.
Okay.
I'll answer more as we go. I'm just filling them out through the day.
All right. So the first segment of niches that you can go into is trades. This is great for any trade. So you could have the Skillshare of heavy equipment. So imagine this, I'm telling you, somebody's going to do this and going to make big money. Yeah. Okay.
I instantly, as soon as we thought of this, I was like, oh, that would be so good.
Right. So when we bought our Bobcat, we had to take classes to learn how to use it. One, we wanted to learn how to use it. And two, we want to make sure we're safe and, we have all the right certifications and things like that. And so there is the opportunity to create the Skillshare of heavy equipment operation. So steamrollers, bulldozers, bobcats, excavators, brush hogs, there's tractors, there's all kinds of that stuff. And so I'm telling you, there's big money in that thing, where large organizations are going to buy multiple seats for all their whole team to be in that. And that's another upsells. We used to do teams, and so you can sell big packages to companies who are buying 10 to 100 seats at a time. Then there's teaching. Okay. And so you've got, you can make the knowledge network of homeschool, which would be huge right now. Homeschool is just exploding. You've got the knowledge network of cooking. So you've got classes about how to cook seafood, classes about how to cook soups, classes about prepping and knife skills and all that stuff. And you bring in all the different chefs to teach those different lessons. Then you've got one that's like, CEO, CFO, CMO level. And so it's like everything that the C-class suite needs to learn: how to be a better CFO, how to be a better CMO, all those things. Cybersecurity. There's penetration testing, there's bug bounties, I don't know everything about cybersecurity. I know a little bit, but there's a lot of different types of classes that you could create in cybersecurity. And that's another niche that's exploding right now.
Not just that, but you can do cybersecurity for like type of person. So like cybersecurity for freelancers, cybersecurity for families, cybersecurity for single women, cybersecurity, you know what I'm saying? Like you can even take that down and so like your whole website, just your onboarding of that section lets you do it per person. And you're teaching the same things. You're just customizing those classes for a specific audience.
Yeah.
You know?
Then you've got one for coding, right? There's Python and C++, and then there's I don't know, Rails and Tailwinds and CSS, and there's all kinds of different coding languages, and so you can have a bunch of different classes in there about coding. So that's just like the different trades. Every trade could have a knowledge network for it. A lot of money in trades. Then you've got hobbies. Okay. So, I mean, photography is another big one. It's like, how do I use my Sony A6400? How do I use my Sony A7? How do I use
Is it worth it to upgrade from a Sony this to a Sony that? Right.
lenses, macro photography, toy photography, fashion photography, wedding photography? There's all kinds of different classes that you could create off of on just that one subject. And then you've got videography, so the next one is gardening. Okay. You've got an expert that's, good at flowers, another one that's good at roots, another one that's good at herbs, another one that's good at fruits, so there's a lot of different things. You got quilting, bushcraft, which is like survival and, creating things out in the woods with just a pocket knife, fishing. If nobody takes that fishing one, I'm telling you, this is my agreement with any of my students, or my friends. It's like, look, I will give you an idea. You have 6 months to like really do something with that idea. If you don't, that idea comes back to me in 6 months. So I'm putting you all on warning. If you want to create a fishing one, I will gladly help you. If nobody does, I am taking that idea and I am creating another knowledge network all about fishing. You've got bass and pike and walleye and the saltwater versus freshwater fishing and all kinds of things. You've got fly rods, you've got spinning rods, you've got bait caster, all kinds of stuff. Then there's another one that's going to be huge is woodworking, all the different types of woodworking that's out there. These are all of these are like multi-million-dollar knowledge.
And they have hours and hours and hours of content. And there are so many people, like I'm thinking about woodworking, and I can't tell you how many older gentlemen that are about to retire wish that they could earn a side income. And if you just gave them an opportunity to be an expert for a flat fee or percent of profits or like we'll talk about pricing and revenue later, but like it's just the more I think about it, the more you're able to leverage the knowledge of like older generations, especially in the hobby world,
Right.
and younger ones if you want to go for the younger generation.
And the easy upsell for all of these is how to turn this into a business. Okay. So people are going to come to fishing, right?
Right.
They're going to come like we're just bros and dudes and we like to fish, right? We just want to
bros and dudes. I love it.
And women and the dudettes too, they like to fish too. And so they're going to come in just for the fishing content. But then it's like, hey, have you ever thought about being like a fishing guide? Do you have a boat already? Would you like to make money? Imagine if you could tell your wife that your boat is actually making money instead of costing money. That's a sales pitch right there. Let me tell you, that's going to work. And so just, your upsell is learning how to turn these hobbies and trades into businesses. And so that's your coaching level, your upsell.
So one that we really want to do, like a side project here, but my daughter's super into horses and she's already told me I'm not going to college. I'm going to be a competitive barrel racer my whole life. And I think it's great. Like let her dream as big of a dream as she wants. But I was just thinking like, I've already bought courses on like horse care, horseback riding. She's going to lessons 3 times a week. So like, we're already doing this. If there was a knowledge network where we could be interviewing and sharing, like, how do you turn this knowledge into different careers? So like, can she be a competitive barrel racer, but also be a farrier and travel around and get customers?
Farrier is the horseshoe.
Yeah, the person that puts horseshoes on. So like there are just so many skills that she's learning right now that she can turn into a career later, but no one is teaching her how to turn those into careers.
Yeah. And Anne Marie says that this is bloody eye-opening.
Which is awesome.
Thank you, Anne. Yes. All right. Next one here is sports. Okay. So you've got a knowledge network all about basketball. All right. Look at what big YouTube channels are. And this is the thing, guys. we're not competing necessarily with YouTube. I thought I was at first, but you actually, that is one of your greatest sources of content. If you think about Skillshare, the main way they're getting all of those experts is from Skillshare. They just go find people who are already creating content and they say, hey, why don't you put a class in here? That way you can monetize your YouTube channel by putting a class on our platform. And so the platforms that I'm going to show you, they all have the ability to have affiliate links. And so you could do the exact same strategy. So you can go approach the people who are already creating basketball content and you can say, hey, put some of your top classes in on our platform. We'll give you an affiliate link and then you can make money just by bringing people onto our platform. You can do that with soccer, with horseback riding, with hockey, with golf, esports. That's a big one. Okay. I'm telling you, that's a big one right there. And so people want to learn how to be better at Overwatch and Call of Duty and Apex Legends and Fortnite, and they want to learn how to be competitive. And then your upsell is coaching. You know, I know a friend of mine from high school, that's what he actually does. He's really, really good at some of these shooter games. And so he coaches people on how to have better aim and how to have better map awareness and stuff like that. And so I'm telling you guys, there's so much money available in this. And everybody was like, well, there's only a few different options and we're all going to be competing. And I'm telling you, there are thousands of niches that we can do this. We can be widely spread out and we can all build together. And that's why we built a community and a network, is so that we can all build these things together. Okay, those are the niches. There was a question that I wanted to answer. I want to answer Joe's question.
Oh,
Joe
okay.
McCall.
Sure.
Joe, thanks for being here. He had a real estate question. He's been doing interviews for a long time.
Yeah, I was going to answer it later in the day, but that's totally okay. He says, I've interviewed maybe a dozen okay. So he's been doing hundreds of video of interviews because he's been doing a podcast for 12 years. So give you the example there. But later, about a dozen or so were found out to be frauds or liars and something like that. And he doesn't want to be shut down by like the FTC and stuff like that. So how do you protect yourself from the knowledge experts that may not be who they say they are? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And so this is just in your contracts. And a lot of people on Twitter, there are politicians and pundits and things like that. And what they do is on their Twitter, they just say like, if, you know, when I like something, it doesn't mean I'm endorsing that person, you know, or if I reply or if I retweet something, like if I retweet one person's good, valuable tweet, it doesn't mean I'm like in business with that person and promoting them. And so you'll just need to have terms in your contract. So anybody that's in any of the finance, health, insurance type niches, hire a lawyer. We will tell you who we would hire. We go to
FTC Guardian is one of them.
And LegalZoom is another one. Very cost effective, and they've protected us. And so essentially you just want to have a contract in there and some terms of service to say like, we are promoting good content. We don't necessarily get involved business-wise with these people. So we're not forming partnerships with them. We're just buying classes. If we're buying them, we're just buying rights to a class. We're not like in an LLC or a partnership with that person. And a lot of times we're not even buying the classes. They're giving the classes to us and we just own the class. We're not in cahoots with them. So
yeah,
that's how I would solve that.
There's a lot in your terms of service that let you know, like links to third parties and third party contributed content. So like you protect yourself that way. And so like I would protect myself in those terms and agreements. So that way, if somebody says something that is illegal and I didn't catch it in the onboarding process, or like customers have filed complaints, then we can take action. But also we've protected ourselves in the terms and conditions for the students and the terms and conditions for the instructors.
Yes. Also, we have a quality assurance process, which we're going to get into in the systems lesson, that helps us find any weird things going on, and we get rid of them. And so you're going to have reviews, feedback loops, quality assurance. There's lots of different steps along the way to make sure we can get rid of bad stuff as soon as possible.
I was revealing all the systems.
Yes.
And so literally it's all the systems.
Because we have that same problem with marketers. You know, they get into some things that they shouldn't be getting into.
You might get some black hat people telling you how to, go buy Facebook accounts, which is technically illegal. So like that's how we protected ourselves. We've overcome a lot of these challenges. I do want to answer Bree's question.
Answer these 2 questions and I'm gonna move on.
Yep. So if you didn't want to deliver the upsell, like the upsell the instructor is doing, would you recommend offering an affiliate upsell for instructors?
Absolutely. That's one of the best ways that we've gotten instructors, is telling them, like, we don't want the back end. You know, we're your greatest marketing partner. You're going to put something on our platform. We're going to mail all of our customers, hey, we have a new class available by this person. Here's why they're great. You should check out their website. So they get a link in our promotion as well. And then at the end of their course, we tell them, take the last 5 minutes to plug whatever you're doing, because if you've done your job in the class, it's good. And the people now like you, they know you, like you, trust you, and they're going to want to buy more. And so we show them how putting a class on our platform is actually a great setup for their upsells. And then we can also get affiliate commissions from that as well.
And you'll see this in my onboarding section next, but that's actually one of the selling points, is like, we tell the instructors that if you create a special offer exclusive to our members, we'll send you a solo email, like a solo email promotion, not sending people to our members area first and then out to you. No, like, we're directly promoting you to our entire email list, subscribers and customers. And that was a huge benefit for a lot of people. Like, they would give us high value content in exchange for us promoting them to our list as a solo email.
Yeah, Mike, all links will be in the documents. We'll be adding to them over time as well.
Yeah.
All right, so getting into here, defining your niche. 3 exercises that everybody should start with, okay? I had 3 exercises in ad skills, and anybody who did those went on to be wildly successful. And then every time we would do like a troubleshooting coaching call with someone who was struggling, we'd be like, hey, show us the 3 exercises. And every time they were a struggling person, they skipped these. They skipped them, you know. And so and I know some of you, just because we're all humans, there's certain statistics and stuff like that. Some of you are not going to do them. Some of you are. I'm telling you, I have chosen these 3 exercises for your benefit. If you do these 3 exercises, you're going to have a much greater chance of success with this. The first one is called a lean canvas. All right. You want to lead them through this, because I think we're going
to walk you through them too. Okay. I even have examples. So a lean canvas really takes, like, in the old school days, they used to make you fill out this whole business model, like, it was like 14, 15 pages. It was ridiculous. But now we have the lean canvas, which puts your whole business model on one page. And it just helps you think through, like, what makes you different than anybody else selling in this niche.
And actually, the Small Business Administration, something here just in the US, I don't know about other country laws, but the Small Business Administration now takes a lean canvas in place of a business plan. So if you want to go to banks with loans and get SBA loans and stuff like that, you can actually use a lean canvas now.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it's a 1-pager.
Yeah. All right. Okay, then we have the customer persona. That helps us know who we're marketing to. And I can't tell you how many people skip this, but if you don't, like, you might say, oh, I know my customer because I am my customer. But if you do this research, this customer persona exercise, you start to know, you can use that to figure out how will you advertise for that person, what content will you create for that person. Like, it helps you solve all the problems down the line. Like, I used to say to Justin, I was like, if we're going to offer a monthly call, what will we talk about? Like, that's 12 months of content. Like, I used to get overwhelmed. And then he wanted to do like a weekly YouTube video, and then he wanted to do a daily newsletter. I'm like, how could we possibly talk that much about a topic? And so, like, literally, he would open up the customer persona. We would go through their pain points, their goals. And then through those pain points and goals, we would be able to say, like, oh, well, we need to answer these questions. Out of those questions, we have these 10 topics. So each question became its own 10 topics. And then all of a sudden, miraculously, we had 365 days worth of content. And I was like, all right, I get it now. All right. Yes. So the customer persona really helps you to know not just who you're selling to, but what are you going to say to them to get them to know, like, and trust you and buy from you. And then the content plan, it builds off of that customer persona and lets you know, like, what are we going to talk about? Let's get into it. So here we go. This is a lean canvas. I actually have this template in Canva. I'll give you a copy of it, so that way you don't have to go recreate it in Canva. And then you can just type right into it and it comes out so beautifully and nice. But these are the categories we go through. So key partners, key activities. So key activities, like, what are you going to be doing? Key resources is like things you have that add value. So if you already have a course, if you already have a YouTube channel,
if you've been a real estate expert for many years and you already have 100 interviews,
right?
you know, that's a key resource.
That's a starting point, right? If you already have a subscriber list. So like when we were launching AdScales, we had subscribers from I Am Scalable, but we didn't do business model canvas or lean canvases back then. It's also called business model canvas because lean canvas is
It's
trademark.
Yeah.
Anyway. So that's the Canva template. Customer value propositions. This is where you get to differentiate yourself from anybody else in the market. So what makes you different? Sometimes your experience is what makes you different. And so a lot of times you should start with, you know, I have 14 years doing this. Mm-hmm. Some of the people that are selling in my niche are like 12 months into it. Customer relationships. It's escaping me right now. What do we put in this category? I should probably just move into the next one and that will help me explain each one. So let's click next. There we go. Okay. I skipped customer relationship in this one too. That's funny. Okay. So you can see here on the left, market problems. So market problems for AdScales was, you know, they need more sales. They don't know where to start or who to trust. What are our competitors? So we used to list out existing alternatives. So like, who are we competing against? So YouTube, Google, Skillshare. That just helps us see, like, it helps us know our competitors so we know how to sidestep them or differentiate ourselves from them. Value propositions, you can see here, 15 years experience in advertising, right? And then we already had an agency. So it's easy to teach agency systems when you've already run an agency. Channels we were going to use are email, social, and search. Customer relationship, I think that's your, like, how do you build,
manage, and,
right?
Yeah, and keep the relationship. So you got your autoresponders, you got your autoresponders, you got your communities. You know, how are you going to continue to build and foster and nurture the customer relationship? Also, value propositions doesn't always have to be you. Okay, and so like value proposition for Masterclass was they're going to only get the best of the best. You know, and so another value prop with AdScales was that we only have instructors who've spent $1 million in advertising. And so that wasn't about me. It was, I was showing you, I'm only going to get people that have $1 million level of experience, you know? And so it could be, I'm only going to get, you know, if you were doing the fishing one, you know, all of our instructors have won first place at a fishing tournament or something like that. You know, all of our instructors have been sponsored by fishing gear or something, you know. And so the value proposition doesn't have to be about you. You don't have to be an expert in this business model. In fact, you should not necessarily be the expert in this business model. You want to be acquiring other people's content and bringing subscribers to that. Okay, so then you've got your channels, your customer segments. So like, who are the different types of people in your market?
And I would like to add here, like, a lot of people just say, well, all customers, like everyone that fishes is my customer, right? So, but like you can see here, we have segments. Like the reason you segment it is because you're going to create offers for segments. So like you're going to go after the low-hanging fruit to get started, but then you're going to build out funnels or different onboarding sequences that help you attract the other ones.
Right.
So like you're going to start with one. What's the easiest, fastest way to acquire customers, the one that you most speak to, and you're going to start there. And then you're going to, after you're successful with one, you'll build out to others. And so this is really like your 3 to 5 year plan that you'll grow into, but you're not going to start with all 5 of those. That would be too overwhelming. It would be very hard to market to, very costly in ads because you don't have your systems yet. But if you start with one segment, the easiest segment, and then grow, that will be faster.
Yeah, your channel is how you know, what ways are you going to market to your customers? Then you have your cost structure and your revenue stream. All right. So your cost structure, list it out. You know, my website hosting is this, and I'm going to need a ChatGPT account, or I'm going to need a Zoom account. Like, what are your costs? And then what are your different revenue streams? And so you've got your monthly memberships, you've got your annual memberships, you've got your upsells, you've got your workshops, you know, all those, you got your affiliate revenue. So you're going to put all those different revenue streams in there. And then after you do all of this, you now have, instead of just an idea, you have something that you can present to people and get a loan with, or you can present it to a business partner, you can present it to an author, and you know, you have something on paper that you can take your idea and show them, here's why you should be a part of this. Look at what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, I've thought this out.
And I would even go through it with a couple of trusted mentors to have them poke holes. So like, I know that's painful to think about.
First exercise in the community is do one of these, turn it into the community
and
and
let us
allow
poke
us.
holes at it. Because
Yeah.
if you can overcome those holes, then you can go into any bank and say, look, I have a good plan. Help me fund this plan.
Yeah.
So
the next thing we're going to do is our customer persona. Is this already filled out?
Yes.
Okay. So customer personas, a lot of you will already know this. You know, you're going to fill out what are their desires, their psychographics. Psychographics is different brands that they like, the hobbies they may have, their values or ideals. Then you have their environmental. So you're just painting a picture, a very specific picture of who is your target customer. That way, you know that you're speaking to this person. And a lot of people, the problem that they do when they make these is we get it. We want lots of customers, right? And so we try to make our customer persona broad enough to encompass all of the different types of people that will forever maybe want to be one of our customers, but then we don't create something specific enough, and none of those people join, because when they come to your pages, they're like, I don't know if this is for me or if this is for my buddy Jack, you know? So you want to be specific. And when you're specific, I promise you, if you are specific down to one person, there's thousands of people that are like them. We all think we're like, you know, unique snowflakes out there, but we're actually very similar to a lot of other people in our likes and our desires and stuff. So be specific when you create this.
And a lot of people always ask us, well, like, how did you create this? And to be honest, like when we first started, like we didn't know who our best customer is going to be. So this grows over time as you find your best customers. But when we first started, we would go to competitor pages on like Facebook and Twitter and things like that. And we would go look at their most active engagers, and we would go through their profiles to see like, what are they into? What books are they reading? What conversations are they having? What are they driving in their pictures? Like people tell you so much on Facebook, and I know you're going to think I'm a creep for stalking, but you learn so much knowledge.
Okay. So I'm going to reveal a little bit here. If you were on my Facebook just the other day, I put out some video of, or a picture, you know, if you could keep only one, you know, it was Myron Golden, Dave Ramsey, or Miles Monroe, that was bait. You know, I really didn't care which one you liked. What I was looking at is I wanted to know who you liked so I can go review your profile and do market research,
right,
you know, for
so
the
we
next
can see
thing.
like what else you're into. And so we know the audience that's into Dave Ramsey is going to be different than the audience that's into Myron. And so like we can then come back to our customer persona and say, oh, under influences, we need to add Myron.
Somebody's going to their Facebook and deleting their comment.
But it should be, sorry, I don't know where that stutter cluster came from, but it should be a living document. You should be improving this over time. Like we revisit this on a yearly basis. Like at the end of every year, Justin and I take December off and we say, okay, how do we make ourselves better the next year?
Half of December.
Okay, maybe half December, sometimes the whole December, but you know, this year is probably half.
Yeah.
Anywho, but we take this time to say like, how do we make the next year better? But in that process, we always review our best customers and say, well, how can we attract more of them? And that's when we come and we update this and we say, okay, trends are changing, you know. It used to be Cadillacs, everyone was driving. Now it's Teslas, everyone driving. So like this was updated last year. We changed off the different classes of cars and we added a Tesla because that seems to be what everyone's driving these days.
Yeah. So your first one is an educated guess. Right. It shouldn't be a full-on guess because you have social media to go out there and kind of spy on people, stalk them, and kind of learn what their likes and interests are. So an educated guess. But then as you start doing marketing and acquiring customers, you should quarterly, yearly come edit this, tweak it. And over time, it becomes perfect. It's like a laser.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you're writing emails and people are like, how are you in my head? Like, you know what, and that's how you know you've done a good customer persona.
Yes. Somebody did ask a question, is a $24 CAC cost to acquire a customer realistic? That was on another slide. Yes, it was a free book. It was a free plus shipping book offer that we were doing. And we were acquiring customers between like 24 to as high as 60 sometimes, but depends on what you're doing. But yeah, it is low for depending on what.
And that was really refined and tested. When we first started that process, it was like $140. And then slowly it became $97. And then it was $65. And then all of a sudden we were like, $24, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So like, again, like you're seeing an end product, you're seeing 5 years of revision and revision and revision and perfecting. And so when you see $24, know that when you start, it's probably not gonna be $24 because you have to refine your messaging over time. So
Okay, so this is our content plan. It's a 1-page content plan. I was watching a Gary Vee video and he was going through his slides, and I was like, oh, wait, pause. And I screenshotted this one slide because I thought this was really good. We have it filled out on the next one.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is how I think about my content marketing. People are always asking me, like, how do you have so much to say on Facebook?
That's me asking him that question, just so you know.
Well, I've done this, I've done this, and I've done my persona, and so I just know. And then I'm just a motor mouth and have lots of things to talk about. My mom used to always ask me if my throat was hurting because I was talking so much, So we help our customers become better marketers, better fishermen, better real estate agents, or smarter. It doesn't always have to be better. It should be wealthier. It could be a lot of different things. So what do you help your people do, use it, and then how? Okay. And so at AdSkills, we help our customers become better marketers using science, history, and math. And so it was never like my knowledge, again, in INTJ. I would go out there and I would find the science, the psychology. I would find historical campaigns. I would show them the math. Here's how, this CPM with this CTR equals this EPC. So like you look at this and now you understand all of my content. I'm always coming back to how can I talk about some form of science, usually psychology, and help people be a better marketer? How can I talk about some historical campaign or book and help them become better marketers? How can I show them some math that helps them become better marketers? And then what are our customers interested in? These are the categories. And so on your platform, you will have categories of content, just like in Amazon Prime or Netflix, right? We've got the comedy, the drama, the scripted TV or reality TV, horror. You've got, pretty soon it's going to be all the Christmas, Hallmark Christmas shows, the documentary. So these are your categories that you'll create. And so for AdSkills, first thing they want to know about ads, right? Then they want to know about landing pages. Then they need to know about tracking for those landing pages. Then they need like funnels instead of just the landing page. And then a lot of them were agencies. And so we would talk about agency life. So sales, CRMs, how to get clients, how to get leads, how to hire, all those different things. And then how do we appeal to those things? Like what kind of content are we going to create in those categories? And so for paid ads, it was often just tutorials. That's what you guys wanted. You wanted walkthroughs of these.
What do I click? Why did I choose this tick box versus that tick box? How do I make sure I'm not losing out on paid ads because I'm choosing the wrong section of the
manual bidding versus automated bidding, all those different things. And the landing pages, there's tutorials, walkthroughs, interviews with people who made them, tutorials and walkthroughs and case studies, interviews and systems. So it's the type of content you're going to create in each of these categories. Any questions before we move on? And we got to wrap it up here. We're over time.
I know we're over time. It's okay.
On this session.
It's okay.
Okay.
So Bree says, she specifically created her community for females only, female musicians.
Sure. And
she's found that this has been very limiting because men seem to be much more likely to spend money. Do I just need to do a better job with marketing and double down, attracting the right women who will spend money? Or if I know men are much more likely, should I just expand my audience to both genders?
I would say that is a pivot. I wouldn't change everything. I would tweak your persona. And sometimes, it's like the thing that jumped out of my mind is if you were targeting women who own iPhones, is going to be different. I'm sorry if you're a woman that owns an Android. I'm not saying anything. I don't know if you got the Samsung 22 or if you got the Samsung flip thing from Walmart. I don't know. Everybody gets bent out of shape when I have this talk. But if you're an iPhone owner, I know you spent like $1,000,
or you're still paying for it.
Or you're still paying for it, And so sometimes a little tweak, it's like instead of maybe targeting women who shop at Kohl's. Maybe you target women who shop at Nordstrom, or I don't know, whatever. So I think you just need to tweak your customer persona a little bit.
Yeah.
It will help you narrow into like, okay, these women. And then also it could be a little bit of copywriting. You may need some assistance in your copywriting to sell them more and draw them in a little bit more.
Because like everyone is spending money. We just have to define like what they're spending it on and if they'll spend it on what you're offering. And
Sure,
so
that water.
knowing your niche is good. I hope that answered your question, but if not, feel free to ask more. It's yeah, somebody even said it sounds like a messaging issue, speaking to the right woman who will invest. I agree.
Because we got women on here that buy. Women
Right.
buy.
Yeah.
I promise you, women buy.
I help people sell their digital agency at 7 figures and higher.
Alex, good to see you, bud.
Yeah. For my knowledge network, would a collection of interviews, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the exit process be valuable and different ways to improve the sellability of a business be a fit?
I do think so. I think it's more than just exits. I think that there are systems. You could talk about hiring. You could talk about systems. You could talk about exits. You could talk about, what to do after the exit, because it's like, great, I sold my business.
What do I do now?
Now what? Because like, I still got to it's great that you have this chunk of change and, if you've structured it well, you've got, royalties or residuals that are coming in. But you get bored, it's like you still got to do something. And so there's the now what,
Yeah.
what did this person do after? What did they do with their check? They just got a big old check. How do you not just go blow it all on race cars or something? Like, what do I do with that money? So I think you have a lot of content there for that specific niche, and you're going to attract the big pockets, man. People with a big old check.
Well, I was just going to say, you're going to attract 2 people. You're going to attract people that want to be there and people that are there. So you're going to have to think about the content that gets people from where they want to be to there. And then the content of, if they're there, how do they do it better? So like you have sort of 2 lines of content to create there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's roll through this here.
Sure.
We'll come back to that question. Types of content that you are going to put into your knowledge network. All right. You have the originals. Okay. If you think about any of them that are out there, you've got Netflix has Orange is the New Black. There's only one place you can find that show. It's on Netflix. Mandalorian, that's only on Disney Plus. So you want to have a couple of original exclusive content type of things on there. Usually I create that stuff when I'm launching it, because it's just easier to get it going by yourself. Or you can pay someone for exclusive rights to something, but you're going to want some form of original content on there. And then most of your content is going to be collaborations. A friend of mine, mentor of mine, Rich Sheffrin, he's got a knowledge network platform called Steal Our Winners. And it's nothing but classes about how this person smashed it in TikTok ads, and then how this person smashed it in e-commerce, and how this person smashed it on Etsy. It's all these different classes about how these people did really, really well with one specific thing. And so the way that he gets that content is he just does interviews. And so he knows he's got an assistant who helps him outreach to get the interviews, schedule the interviews. He shows up, he asks them these questions, and he knows that he's going to get a good piece of content from that. So the majority of your content is going to be collaborations, and that's one of the ways that you get it for free. And we're going to talk about that stuff more, the scripts, the outreach, all of that stuff, but that's your main bread and butter content. And then sometimes you may have to actually license the content. And so sometimes I want this expert in our platform, and he doesn't want to do an interview, and he's not willing to just give it to me because he's got his own big list and he doesn't need me. And like, I've tried all my tricks and I just can't get it for free. And so I need to shell out. Oftentimes, in the business world, it can be a little bit more expensive. So like I might have to pay $1,000 to $3,000. They're creating a 30-minute to 60-minute class. It's not like they're creating a whole course. I'm not paying them tens of thousands of dollars. I was like, look, I get it. You're a hot shot. You want to make $2,000 an hour. So give me a 45-minute class. I'll give you $2,000. And boom, now I've got a big name that I can put on my pages and my marketing material to attract customers. with that content. And so it's worth it to buy that content sometimes. And in other markets, it's so cheap. And going after authors, so much cheaper, authors. I love y'all
with what they get with their book promotion.
Yeah, authors are not making money. They have tons of eyeballs and they have big names, but they are not making money. And so a lot of times for $250, for $500, I can get a big name author to create a course for us. And so that's licensing the content. We will come to the questions in a little bit. We got to fly through some of this stuff here.
We have 2 slides left.
Okay. The next one is your tech stack. Okay. You're going to need something to build your platform. All right. Your platform is your website. It's both the front end parts of your website that help you acquire the new users and the back end part that delivers the content to the users. Right. So you're going to need a platform. Then you're going to need video hosting. Some of the platforms do the video hosting for you. I think Uscreen will allow you to upload videos directly to their platform. They don't always have, I don't love the all-in-one types of softwares. I love you, the CEO. I love the employees. I love, but like sometimes when you're an all-in-one software, you can't be good at everything. And so some of your features have to suffer. And so I personally prefer a dedicated video host like Vimeo or Wistia, who's really, really good at that thing. And they make sure that my videos are never glitching or loading slow or buffering too much. Like they have the infrastructure to give my customer a high quality, no non-frustrating experience. And so you need a video host, and then you need a way to take payments. Okay. Generally, this is Stripe for most of you. You can also consider accepting PayPal, Apple Pay, Bitcoin. You're going to need special tools for that. We personally made the decision to only do Stripe at the end of our ownership of AdSkills because it was just easier tracking wise, accounting wise. We get it. We can add a little bit of boost in conversion rate if we have some PayPal or Apple Pay.
But what you save in the accounting and systems of the back end of having one cart for everything is so much easier. And then when you have the history of your Stripe account showing all of your recurring revenue and all of your sales promotions, and all of that is in one place, you don't have to be like, well, like a third of our revenue is coming from here, and 20% of our revenue is over here, and then the bulk of our revenue is here. It's just easier. It's just easier to say, and like Stripe has it all.
The benefit of accurate, easy accounting was so much better at helping us scale than the 0.7% extra I got on my conversion rate for adding PayPal. And so we had a few people that were unhappy with that. And we just had to say, I'm sorry, they're not part of our customer persona. It's Stripe only. So you'll make that decision. That's why I went with Stripe only, is I wanted everything in one account, easy charts, easy tracking, easy accounting. So those are the different pieces you'll need. Now we're going to talk about some of the specific software that we recommend. My number one recommendation is Webflow, and that's I didn't build AdSkills on Webflow because Webflow's features weren't out yet.
Right.
But they were coming out, and we were kind of making a decision, should we wait? But it was like 5 months later that they finally came out with the feature that I would have needed. It's out, it's good, it's tested, it's great.
It's actually making a change in AdSkills right now. Yeah.
They're moving it, they're moving it all over to Webflow right now from Uscreen. And so Webflow, what I like about Webflow is it allows you to customize every pixel. If you want your headline 3 pixels to the left instead of here, like Uscreen's great, but there's templates and you can customize them. It's a little harder. It's like this weird HTML, CSS framework called Liquid. And it's possible, but it's harder. Webflow, it's more like a ClickFunnels type of thing, a little harder than ClickFunnels, but you can move everything exactly where you want it, how you want it. I want a gradient there.
There's still a learning curve.
There's a learning curve, but there's lots of experts. There's lots of templates. In fact, we're going to show you one in just a minute here. But Webflow allows you to customize every pixel. It also has the front end. It has the members area. It has a built-in membership feature. It has the cart. It handles everything for you right from Webflow. Then you have Uscreen. Uscreen is like the ClickFunnels or the Kajabi of the knowledge network world. It's that all-in-one. It's an easy software for creating your whole platform. It allows you to do live streaming right through there. It's got its own card. It's everything you need in one system. I would urge you to pair Uscreen with something like Samcart, because again, sometimes these all-in-one platforms, it's like I'm using ConvertKit right now for my email, and I love it. But they have like their own cart. and I don't love their cart. It's like Samcart is really, really good. And I don't want you messing with my conversion, my abandoned cart rates and my upsell rates and all that stuff. So I'm going to use a really, really good cart, even though my email report always tells me I'm making no money. It's like, no, I made money, guys.
They always say, and you made $0.
Right. So Uscreen, phenomenal for delivering the content, phenomenal for your members. I don't love the cart.
And I was going to say, Uscreen actually has some added features that we didn't put on AdSkills because we just wanted to make the switch first. But they even like build apps that you can be on like Roku TV, and you can have your own like phone app where people can access your community and your knowledge network through their phone. So like they have a lot of great features, and I want them to focus on the streaming features. It was the checkout features we were challenged by.
Yeah. So people are asking, what about ClickFunnels? What about Kajabi? It's kind of possible to build this with that, but those things were coded
for course.
Yeah, they were coded and designed for coaching, for courses. You're going to struggle a little bit more. So if you like the ClickFunnels experience or the Kajabi experience, Uscreen is that in this world. You're going to have that easy to use interface. Uscreen is very similar to Kajabi, to be honest. It's incredibly alike, but looks and feels and has the right features, the right tracking, the right language for doing this thing. And they have a great YouTube channel that helps you build this business model.
Not just that, but Uscreen, the reason we switched from Kajabi, actually AdSkills was on Kajabi. We were trying to build a knowledge network on Kajabi. So 100% behind the scenes here. Uscreen has the feature that Skillshare uses, which is where when you sign up, they're tracking watch time. And the instructors on Skillshare get paid by how much watch time from a person's subscription. So they're getting a % of revenue per subscriber based on watch time. Uscreen has the feature to count watch time of every video. So that way you can choose like all videos by this author or by this instructor. And then you can see how much watch time that instructor got. And then you could pay out a % of your profits based on that number. And that's why we made the switch, because we didn't have that functionality with Kajabi. And so
trying to talk to Kajabi support to make that, they're like,
no.
Like only 3 of our customers want that feature. No, we're not creating that feature.
They're never getting to that point. So because all of their customers are beginning course creators that just need an easier way to sell their first course online. That's who they're marketing to. So you're no longer their target demographic. So you are last in line for all support features or any development. Uscreen is dedicated to this business model, a knowledge network style business model. So they're catering to what that business model needs, which is the tracking per instructor, per video. You can even see down to the videos that one subscriber watched, like how much time did they spend on your platform and what did they watch on the platform. And so that's why we made the switch from Kajabi to Uscreen for those features.
Somebody asked, does Webflow have this watch time feature? It does not. But if you paired it with something like Wistia as your video host, remember you need a platform, you need a video host, you need a cart, right? And so if you used Wistia as your video hosting platform, Wistia tracks the watch time of your thing.
And then you would sort by category there.
That's how I would get the best of both worlds. Me being in this industry, having used a lot of these things, I would use Webflow with Wistia, and my cart would be Samcart. That's my official #1 recommendation, but there are other options out there for you guys. Vimeo OTT is the other one. That's more for if you're willing to code your own platform, like you want to have a very custom built platform. Vimeo OTT is that will help you. It's your video host. It does all that for you. It wasn't the option for me. Felt like that was more the Netflix, Hulu, like the higher end kind of things. A lot of money.
It's definitely when you're at scale because it has a higher price point.
If you don't have a coder, if you don't know how to run a coding team, don't go Vimeo OTT.
Right.
If you want that custom high end, you want to go for the big boy level, Vimeo OTT is going to be for you. All right, really quick, I want to show a couple of things here. We're going to show you, this is the template that I recommend for Webflow. It's called Streaming X. So you can always just go to Webflow, go to marketplaces, go to templates, and then look up Streaming X, okay? And this, you just install this template and boom, you got a Netflix looking website, membership. It's got everything built into it that you're going to need to have a streaming knowledge network, SVOD type of website built in. It's going to have the categories. It's going to have the watch pages. It's going to have the join page, your membership function. It's already done. Just get this template. I think it was like $99. And then boom, you're done. You don't need to hire a coder or anything like that.
You just need to learn how to use the Webflow backend, which I watched like one full day webinar series that they had, and I was able to like go in there and like start building right away, which was pretty cool. But you do have to have some experience. So like if you're just used to like drag and drop putting things in place, then it will be harder because you're learning the backend. You're not having to code like we used to do back in the days where you're doing like Ahref tags.
And just remember that there's Fiverr. Okay, so if you find Webflow is a little harder for you to use, there's Fiverr, and Fiverr for $100, $200, you're going to find somebody that's going to help you with Webflow. There's tons of tutorials online. There's a whole community of people that are creating tutorials. And if you don't like Webflow and you just want an easy, out of the box, Uscreen is your option.
It really is. So like, I know Justin sort of harps on it, but like, it's the easiest first place to start, to grow, to start your knowledge network. And then you can hire and switch off of it in the future. And so like, if you're using Uscreen with Stripe, then you're still able to make the switch in the future when you're at scale and you have the funds to be able to hire people to do that work.
Right. And that's why I showed you the template for Webflow as well.
Right.
That way you don't have to do any coding. You're going to load this template into your Webflow account, and then you're going to be able to go in there and just change out this image, change out this title, all that stuff. So I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for you. All right. We have one more slide here. Okay. Knowledge network best practices. Okay. So you want some exclusive content. Did I just skip one? No. Okay. You want some exclusive content. Think of like, what is your Mandalorian? The classes you offer, the instructors who teach them will be the main marketing draw and buying trigger for your users. Okay. So think a lot about like, what's your exclusive content, because people necessarily aren't joining, their moment of purchase isn't about all of the things. It's hard to market to somebody with all of the things. But if you have one class, now you can pull people in. They want that one class, and they get there and they realize, oh, you have all these classes too, and it becomes the thing that knocks them off the fence to make the purchase. So draw them in with with exclusive content, sell them with the volume of content. User experience, making sure that your website is really easy to use, well laid out, they can find the content. Uscreen has the ability to search. So like if you come into ad skills, you see all this content, and it has the categories, so you can go down and find things that way, or you can just search Google Ads, and it's going to show you all the videos just about that one topic. And if you made a fishing one, you can find everything about bass fishing, really easy. Roadmap, huge key. Think about your roadmap from day one. The way you're going to retain your users comes down to the hope for upcoming content. Okay. Users retain their Netflix subscription, for example, due to the eagerness for future seasons of their favorite shows. Then you have your tracking and analytics. This is another thing you're going to want. You want to know what your users are doing when they navigate your platform. You want to know how long they're watching, what are your most watched episodes. You want to know what they're doing on your website, as well as for your marketing material, your conversion rates, all your different metrics. Questions. Let's finish up with some questions. We'll take a small break and then we'll start the next session. We went long.
I actually thought this session was going to be so short. So anyway, I'm excited to see how excited you guys are for this. Yeah. Because that means we're going to see so many great success stories out of this work.
Love the engagement too. Yeah. All right. What do we got?
All right. So Anne says, Anne-Marie, sorry. I have a similar questions. I was thinking about, something around helping women who want to start their business or are interested in passive income. But after seeing your niche breakdown, my idea seems weak. Your ideas are never weak, I promise you.
I love that. I think, I would change that from just women interested in passive income to, like what I see is there's probably a great knowledge network that could be built around so there's I see the women migrating to different areas, right? There are like Etsy sellers, they're Pinterest. Where else am I seeing?
I feel like blogging is making a resurgent.
Blogging is huge.
Bloggers really starting to take off again.
Yeah, so I think you would focus more on the ways that those women are selling, and I think it will attract those people. And so if you had classes about building your Etsy store and classes about I know tumblers, like I see tumblers, and another one we just saw at the flea market. We saw multiple women out there selling at the flea market freeze dried candy. I bought a bag of Skittles for $17, okay, because it was freeze dried and they're delicious. They're crazy. Yeah, I would take the channels that they're making money at, make those the classes, and I think it'll attract the audience you're looking for.
Right. So one thing we did in the really early days is like we're actually. It's interesting, the timing. So let me slow down my thought process here. In 2008, that big recession hit. We had that big real estate burst, and now we're in a very similar situation in the sense of our recession and inflation and stuff like that. And when back then we had website flipping masters, which was a course that taught people how to buy and sell websites. And so we used to be like, buy and sell websites for, thousands of dollars or $100,000. That's like what everyone was doing. But when we dove into our customer persona, they just wanted to learn how to make like an extra $300 this weekend. And that's what people are seeking again in this inflation boom that we're seeing. They just want to know, how do I make an extra $300 in a weekend?
We're hearing it at our church all the time.
Yeah.
Like if I could make an extra $200, if I can make an extra $500, like they don't want to be millionaires. They don't want to be,
they want to, but like they're only thinking about the right now problem. And right now they need to be able to pay for the booming price that like oatmeal went from like $3 to $8, like they're trying to make the cost adjustment of how inflation is changing at our grocery stores, but they don't want to run a huge business. They don't know how to become like the next Spanx or anything like that. Like they don't have that dream or that grand of a vision. They just want to contribute to the bottom line of their house. And so I think you have a great idea there. I would not underplay that. I think you could totally go on the angle of like how to add $1,000 or how to use how to make $1,000 to start filling your retirement plan.
The timing for where you're at right now is perfect with the way inflation is going and recession is going. You're perfect. Somebody asked, what platform does Rich Schefren use? I don't know, but I just sent him a text message and I asked him, hey, what did you build Steal Our Winners on? I think it's custom coded because when I worked with him, he had a coder. He's got a coder that he's been using for a long time.
What if we already built out a community on Circle? Would it be possible to do a knowledge network on Circle? I think it's possible. So we're new to Circle as well. We're just learning, like I took a few courses, they had Circle. I think it's a great platform. As far as knowledge networks, the functionality that I know of Circle right now, you're not going to get that binge-worthy feeling that you want out of a knowledge network where they're like seeing all the content and just diving into it. You get more of like a course network where they just have like a database of courses.
You can pull off the idea, but maybe not the look.
Right. So I totally think that's a great starting point, but I think at scale, you could grow into something stronger or something more effective in the future, but it's a great starting point.
And that answers a lot of the questions that are coming in. It's like, well, this one's pricey and that one's pricey. Guys, use whatever you got to do to get started. Okay.
Right.
Get your first 100 customers or even your first 1,000 customers, right? If you get to 1,000 with our pricing strategy, you're going to be at $20,000 a month. At $20,000 a month, you're not worried about how much Wistia costs or, how much, if I can hire somebody on Fiverr for Webflow or whatever. So get out there, use whatever you got to use. Uscreen is pretty affordable. WordPress can do it. It's just, you're going to be creating a lot of pages. It's going to be a very bulky software.
That's what we started AdSkills on. Like when we first started doing the multi-author, like we had WordPress and it was, I want to say that when we exported, it was something like 1,263 pages. And I was just like,
use whatever you got to use to get it going and then change up.
A couple of questions. So Eric asked us specifically, like, do you use like ClickFunnels for your sales pages and then send them to a Uscreen members area? Or is everything on Uscreen? So
Uscreen does allow you to have a website as well. It's a pretty basic website builder, but you can have like your home page, your pricing page, all that stuff. And we'll get into in the marketing that we don't necessarily create. It's not VSLs and webinars and long form sales pages and stuff like that. We're not selling high ticket items. You just don't need that. And you'll see when we get into the funnel why you don't need that stuff.
We mentioned fishing, but what are your thoughts about boating? How would that work? Boating. I definitely think boating is a super big niche because not only can you do boating as in like what type of boat to buy, but like there are people that are using those, what are they called? Trawlers? I'm horrible in the boating niche, but I once helped someone write an advertorial and I did the market research for it. And he was trying to sell high-end sailboats. They're like the really big ones that you can go like across the sea from.
It's not a yacht, it's like a small yacht. I think it's called a trawler.
Yeah.
Anyways, boating I think is good. Recreational vehicles, right? You've got the UTVs, you've got four-wheelers, all that stuff.
This is a great question. I have plenty of ideas. How do we validate our ideas so we have a good idea and when we know there's a market for it?
Okay, so first thing I do is I usually put a social post out there and I'll say something like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this for this price. Who's in? All right, not a lot of sales. I'm thinking of doing this at this price. Who's in? And then I try to see, does anybody respond? If nobody responds, well, then like I probably need to build an audience or I need to do something else before that, or the idea isn't that good. And so I'm trying to get, depending on your audience, for my audience, I'm trying to get 100 responses. For some audiences, you may need 20 responses. So that's the first thing. Then the next thing that I'll do is I'll say, okay, they've raised their hand, but will they raise their credit card? And so the next thing I'll do is I'll create a sales page, just a one-page website. I'm not even building out the infrastructure, the back end or anything like that. I'm creating a one-page website, get people to go to that website, and do they click the add to cart button? When they click the add to cart button, it may say coming soon, or it can go to an actual order form. But I'm just seeing, can I actually get people to purchase? And if they do, then I know to build it out. So I can immediately refund them and say it's coming soon, but I just want to test and see, are people actually going to buy this thing? And then if they do, now it's time to build.
Okay. There's a pricing question. I'm going to save that for the pricing one. So Hillary, great question, but we're getting into pricing shortly. So I'll make sure to save that question for there. Competitor related question. My wife teaches acrylic painting to women and kids. She wants to expand her footprint to corporate team building type areas. Would creating a knowledge network with other competitors be a good idea, as each competitor has their own skill set that they can share in the art painting domain?
Read that to me again. I'm sorry. I was reading another question.
I knew you were. Okay. My wife teaches acrylic painting to women and kids. She wants to expand her footprint to corporate team building type area. Yes. Would creating a knowledge network with other competitors be a good idea, as each competitor has their own skill set that they can then share in the
I think so. Instead of thinking of them as competitors, think of them as partners. The reality is your customers are buying from more than just one person. I would be silly to think that people only buy from Ad Skills. They have Ad Skills, they have Digital Marketer, they have Keith Krantz, they have Kurt Molly, they have all these different things. And the beauty of this business model, one of the reasons why we switched to this business model and this pricing model, is at this price point, it's not hard to decide, should it be this or that? If I'm selling a $900 item or a $500 item and somebody else is selling the same thing, then it's like, I need this or that. But at $19.99, they can have both. It's easy for them to buy both.
Somebody talks about how Uscreen doesn't have templates. What's the alternative to something like StreamingX on Uscreen? Like that's why we gave you both options, because Uscreen is the we only have this way, and Webflow is the how do you get it custom the way you want it.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to get that in both areas.
Webflow is also very cost effective. I know it's a little harder to use, but there's lots of tutorials. There's a whole community of designers, of pros that can build stuff for you. There's Fiverr, there's templates, there's a lot of stuff that you can do.
We know a guy.
Yeah, we know a guy that can help you as well. So there's a lot that can make Webflow easier. If you're looking for custom, you want it to look a certain way, then you got to go the Webflow route, and you may have to deal with a little bit more learning curve to get what you want. If you want easy, then Uscreen is easy, but you kind of have to make it look like they want, and the other thing is, like, we can talk about this tool, that tool, this tool, that tool. We gave you our recommendations. Those are our recommendations. You're welcome to use anything. You just need the pieces. You need a platform, video hosting, and a cart. Do
the starting point.
Use your skills, your resources to build it out. You don't have to use our tools, but like I can't go through every single tool. I don't know every single tool. I gave you my recommendations on what I think you should use.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Eric,
we'll talk about paying experts in Skillshare. I've actually done a lot of research on Skillshare. Of any of them that I've researched, it's him, that CEO, and I've actually kind of like I love the guy. He's great. I'm like, man, I've become a fan of the CEO of Skillshare after listening to all of his interviews. And so I'm going to be releasing another class in the community after this workshop, just about how Skillshare works, how they get their people, how many classes they have, how they pay their people, how they do their marketing, all of that stuff. I'm going to be talking about that. So I'll answer that question later.